Very busy day for President-elect Donald Trump. Talks have begun at his Mar-a-Lago mansion about how the second Trump presidency will look, looking at potential appointees to key posts and the implementation of the policies he promised to implement during this election campaign. The other big development was US President Joe Biden coming out here at the White House behind me earlier today to deliver a speech, an address to the nation that had two main purposes as he would see it. One was to ensure that there would be a peaceful transfer of power. He says the will of the people has been accepted, America has made a choice, and stressed to Americans he would do everything in his power to make sure the transfer of power was peaceful. So a fine thing to say, but also a not too veiled jab at Donald Trump, given the events of 4 years ago. The other message was his acknowledgement that many Democratic Party supporters were feeling hurt and disappointed. For them, he had this message: be resilient.
Setbacks are unavoidable, but giving up is unforgivable. We all get knocked down. But the measure of our character, as my dad would say, is how quickly we get back up. Remember, a defeat does not mean we are defeated. We lost this battle. The America of your dreams is calling for you to get back up. That's the story of America for over 240 years and counting. It's a story for all of us, not just some of us. The American experiment endures. We're going to be okay, but we need to stay engaged.
US President Joe Biden there. Joining me now from inside the White House is our correspondent Barbara Miller. All the good journos get access inside. And Jade McMillan, North America Bureau Chief outside Donald Trump's Florida mansion in West Palm Beach, Florida. Good morning to you both. Let's start with you, Barb. What did you make of Joe Biden's address?
Well, it was very brief. That was one of the most noticeable things about it. I think he did what he had to in terms of acknowledging that he had called Donald Trump. What I found striking was this insistence, this stressing that this administration will do everything it can to ensure the peaceful transfer of power. And I think for Democrats, this is now a point of pride that they are saying, unlike the previous administration, we immediately accept the results of this election. Of course, it was a lot less close in certain key swing states than the 2016 result. But we accept the result. We are disappointed, but we will ensure that the next president comes in peacefully. And that was very similar to that message we heard from Kamala Harris in her concession speech. And again, a similarity between these two speeches from the vice president a day ago now from President Joe Biden. Fighting talk, telling people don't be defeated. We have been defeated in this election, but we need to get back up and keep fighting for what we believe in. And then one more thing that I took there was that Joe Biden, of course, concerned at this stage about his legacy. It's not going to be the legacy of a man who passed on to a new generation as he had promised. He did do that eventually, but some would say too late for Kamala Harris to have a really good shot at the White House, or perhaps for other candidates to emerge. But Joe Biden pointing out in those brief remarks the legislation he's managed to pass in his term here, and saying, you know, it's been historic. We've got an awful lot done. Things will be in place for the next 10 years because of what we got done. And also encouraging people not to give up before inauguration. There are 74 days left, he said. Let's make every day count. So Joe Biden keen in these final couple of months of his time in the White House to ensure that he's remembered not just as the guy who handed the keys back to his predecessor.
And meanwhile, Barb, in the wake of the Democrats' election defeat, it is on like Donkey Kong within that party. Lots of recriminations, lots of finger pointing. What are you hearing?
I think we're now hearing from the left of the party. We're hearing from Senator Bernie Sanders, one-time presidential candidate himself, from AOC. We're hearing that the Democrats, you know, it can't be business as usual. They've lost touch with working-class voters. Bernie Sanders pointing out in a statement, you know, that the high percentage, relatively high percentage of Latino and black men who backed Donald Trump. So from those progressives, a real focus on the policies, I guess, the direction of the party. Of course, also questions about the personalities and about Joe Biden's decision to step away so late, and about Kamala Harris getting the nomination without any competition. Now, if Joe Biden is buying into those discussions, we certainly didn't hear anything like that from him today. He praised Kamala Harris, praised her campaign and character. But as you would expect, I guess, from this kind of event, these remarks were just in at the Rose Garden there. He didn't talk about any possible reasons for the loss. I guess we have to wait until after he leaves office, whether he does any reflective interviews or perhaps puts out another book to get a sense of what Joe Biden is really thinking and feeling in these dramatic days in American history here.
Yes, we may have to wait some time. Barbara, thank you. Let's go to Jade McMillan outside Donald Trump's home in West Palm Beach, Florida. Jade, what are you hearing as Donald Trump's plans take shape for his second presidency?
Well, we know that Donald Trump's transition team is getting to work now, looking at assembling his administration, getting the former president ready to re-enter the White House. Donald Trump's inauguration won't be until January, so there is some time until Joe Biden leaves and he takes over. And we can expect in the weeks to come that Donald Trump will be announcing many of his key appointments. Who is going to fill those very critical positions in his cabinet, like the Secretaries of State, Treasury and Defence. There's also a lot of speculation as to whether some of his highest profile supporters will also get roles in his administration. People like the billionaire Elon Musk, who became such a central figure in the later stages of Donald Trump's campaign. He has spoken about giving him some kind of job with a government efficiency commission. Also, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the former independent presidential candidate who dropped out to instead get behind Donald Trump. He is a well-known vaccine skeptic, but there has been talk of him getting some kind of role in public health. So a lot of questions still to be answered here, Michael. Donald Trump himself is keeping a low profile at Mar-a-Lago. We can expect that there is probably a lot of jostling taking place behind the scenes as people perhaps try to put themselves forward for some of these positions. Donald Trump has been invited to the White House by Joe Biden as part of this transition process. We don't have any word yet on when that might take place.